In this video, we talk about exiting your Amazon or any other online business. Actually, we will talk about the book, The EXITpreneur's Playbook, written by Joe Valley, and we are talking directly with the author of this book. Joe is helping entrepreneurs to exit their businesses for many years already. He gathered a lot of experience, and all his experience and secrets and information, how they calculate the value of the business, what to know when you grow your business for exit, and all the details he put in all this book with almost 300 pages. I recommend it to read it, and during this interview we will talk about few important points which he's mentioning few times in this book, so you get an impression what he's looking at when he's talking with exitpreneurs, with entrepreneurs which want to exit. And actually you will find the link below to the book on Amazon, and also to the website Quiet Light Brokerage and other resources we mentioned during this talk. And if you will hear something which you like and which you can apply in your business, don't forget to click like button below and subscribe to our channel. Hello, Joe. It's nice to have you here. And I know we'll be talking about your book, EXITpreneur's Playbook. But before we do that, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the Amazon space?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Thanks for having me. First of all, I appreciate it. So I'm an entrepreneur, first and foremost. I've built, bought, and sold about a half dozen of my own companies. And I sold my last e-commerce business back in 2010, and I sold it through a company called Quiet Light Brokerage. I took about a year off, and then I joined the team at Quiet Light. We were a team of 3 back then. I worked my way into a partnership, essentially, and the original founder, Mark Doust, and I are now partners at Quiet Light. We've got a team of 15 advisors and about 20 support staff. And we'll close about 250 million in total transactions this year in 2021, with the majority of those being e-commerce with a large FBA component to them. And back in June of this year, 2021, I launched that book that you just held up. It's called The EXITpreneur's Playbook. It is difficult to pronounce. You're not the only one. Short story there. I surveyed a bunch of friends and influencers when I was deciding on a title. And one option was EXITpreneur. I didn't have the rest of it. And the other was Incredible Exits. 9 out of 10 chose Incredible Exits because it was really easy to say. I went with a more difficult one. So everybody seems to stutter over it. But it's all about, becoming an exitpreneur, because most of the money that you make as an FBA business owner comes on the day that you sell your business. You're growing the business like crazy, and you're constantly putting working capital back into inventory and not able to take a whole lot of cash out. And so, at least 50% of all the money you'll ever make is that, the day that you sell. So I talk about, my history, my experiences in the book from building and selling my own businesses, but also those of many of the clients that I worked with, some of their incredible successes or incredible exits, because it flows off the tongue so well, and some of their epic failures. And in those cases, I do change the names to protect the innocent. But then I talk about everything that I've learned over the last decade in terms of what brings value, what plummets value, what buyers are looking for, how to pull different levers of your business to make sure you're getting maximum value when you decide to sell, either through an advisor or directly to an aggregator.
Yeah, so I would like to touch few important points. I was reading your book, and several times you mentioned few things which it sounds like it's very important, like, for example, accrual accounting, right?
Yeah, accrual accounting. Absolutely. Yep.
Then there will be 4 pillars of value plus 5th one, which is not like a pillar, but a pillar. And so a lot of, and important thing is SDE, the
seller's discretionary earnings.
Yeah, the value which you always have to look when you are selling your, or thinking of selling your business. So, but let's start first. For whom is this book? I know you are active in Amazon space, and I saw a lot of examples with Amazon sellers, but I also saw examples with like content creators. So is it for everyone?
It really is. It's for every online business owner, whether you own a SaaS business, a content business, an agency, or even, an FBA business or e-commerce business. And I shouldn't say even. It's probably more heavily weighted towards e-commerce than SaaS or content. but others are gaining from it as well. I just went through a ad back schedule from somebody that owns a sandwich shop today. It's not my specialty, but he's, figuring out that his business is worth about 50% more than he thought it was. So it's really for all entrepreneurs, and more specifically online entrepreneurs. But there's somebody else that it's really for too, and I didn't write it for them, and that is buyers of online businesses. If you're a buyer of an online business and you want to understand how the other team plays, this is what it is. It's their playbook, right? If you think about sports, you always want to figure out how the other team, you should get their playbook. That's kind of what this is. It's really what sellers do and how to position their business. And when buyers understand it and look at it, especially when a seller is listing their business for sale on their own and they don't do a proper ad back schedule, or whatever the case might be within their business, buyers may say, great, I'll pay that, 4-time multiple, happy to. When in reality, the business, once they did a full ad back schedule, they're buying it maybe a 3-time multiple. The seller thinks they're getting a deal, but the reality is the buyer's getting a deal. So it's for both buyers and sellers. For sellers, mostly the online space. That was a long answer to a short question. Sorry about that.
No problem. So your book is structured in 4 parts. The first one is game plan, exit well. Part 2 is the valuation scoreboard. Part 3, running the place, and then the big win. So could you briefly explain why you have 4 parts? Is it how you see every business, or how entrepreneurs should see every business? And maybe you can give us a short overview what you discuss in each of these 4 parts.
Absolutely. Part 1 is really trying to understand what you have. Exactly. Yeah, I see it up there. It's trying to understand what you have, the value of the business that you have, and reverse engineering a path to that, or moving you in that direction. The reality is that probably 80% of the people listening today don't have any written goals, right? And it's been proven over and over and over, when you have written goals and you review them often and visit them often, you are much more likely to succeed. It's more like 42% more likely to succeed and reach those goals. So we talk about that a little bit, but also how to reverse engineer a path to them, so that, once you set the goal, you got to figure out how to get there. And that's all in game plan, exit well. Part 2, the valuation scoreboard, starts with understanding how to calculate the value of your business, because you can't reach your goals if you don't know where you are today. And then we talk about, like you said, the 4 pillars of value there: risk, growth, transferability, documentation, and that invisible 5th pillar that I talk about in there. That's not really a pillar; it's a pillar. It's more of the mortar that holds the bricks of the pillars together, and that's the person behind the business. That person behind the business is almost as important as the business itself. Because if I'm writing a check for $2 million to someone to buy their business, if they are, partying up online, making derogatory statements, choosing really harsh political lines, ones that I'm not in line with, I may not trust them or like them, and I probably won't write them a check for $2 million. So we talk about that quite a bit in there. And then we talk about running the plays in part 3, which is understanding, now that you understand how to calculate the value of your business, what brings or plummets value, then you've got to look at your P&Ls and understand some of the key metrics that buyers are looking for there. If we pause for a moment to go all the way back to that beginning where you talked about accrual accounting, I want to address that because we're moving into numbers here. You've got to be doing accrual accounting, not cash. And the simple reason is that you will get more money for your business, for your growing business, if you have accrual accounting. That's how it works in your pocketbook. The reality is, though, you should be doing accrual accounting because that's the standard, and your inventory value should be on your balance sheet. Cash accounting is that you buy inventory for $10,000 and you've got it in stock and you write it off that month, even though it's going to take you 3 months to sell it. That depresses your net income and depresses the value of your business if you're doing a multiple of your discretionary earnings in cash accounting. So always do accrual accounting. That's what savvy buyers are definitely going to look for anyway. So in terms of part 3, running the plays, we're talking about tracking key financial metrics that buyers are going to look for: top line trends, bottom line sellers' discretionary earnings trends, advertising cost trends, advertising as a percentage of total revenue, gross margins, things of that nature, and another deeper dive into valuation. I also talk about, the aggregators and FBA roll-ups in part 3. Very specifically in chapter 13, I talk about that. And let me just give one quick example there. Every FBA business owner that I know, and probably that is listening today, has heard about the aggregators. Most have probably gotten an email, snail mail, phone call, text from them saying, hey, we love your business. We love your brand. We'd like to buy it. We pay all cash, close in 30 days, avoid the broker fee. It sounds too good to be true because it probably is. They don't want you to know how to calculate sellers' discretionary earnings or do a proper add back schedule, because they're looking for an ignorance discount, meaning, yes, you, the audience, are ignorant to what is a proper add back schedule so that they can pay you that high, quote unquote, high multiple. But in reality, you didn't do an add back for your cash back money. That's $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year times 3. That's an extra $360,000 that you did not get because they're charming, they're likable, they're trustworthy. They'll pay cash, but with terms at closing in most of the time. And they're very, very likable. And that is what makes them dangerous. Now, with all that said, they've done a great thing for the industry, that being the online industry, the M&A industry. They've brought awareness and attention in 3 or 4 years to the fact that these FBA businesses are sellable, whereas Quiet Light's been working on doing that since 2007. I wrote a book called 10 Steps to Selling Your Amazon Business. It's really a booklet, Augustus, back in 2016. It didn't make a dent in people's excitement, about selling online businesses. So they've done a really good thing. I think that what we want to do is make sure that when you get that email, when you get that phone call, you want to first understand the value of what you have. First, you got to set the goals, reverse engineer a path to them, understand the value of what you have, and make sure that you're doing a proper add back schedule. I want to give you one example. I'm not going to harp on the aggregators here because I actually do like these guys. I've had dinner with many of them. Imagine, though, we've all heard of Shark Tank. You've heard of Shark Tank here in the U.S., right? With the people going and pitching their businesses and the sharks investing in them. Imagine preparing your business and getting ready and preparing your pitch and going into Shark Tank. The music is going, and you walk in, and you're expecting to see 5 sharks, hoping they'll all negotiate against each other, maybe even all make offers on your business. But when you get in there, it's only Mr. Wonderful that's there today. Everybody else called in sick. That's what it's like negotiating with one aggregator. One of the top aggregators, not to be named in this podcast, made an offer on a FBA gaming business, board games. And the woman had bought it, grown it like crazy during COVID, and wanted to go and was going to keep running it, but got an email from these folks and then a phone call, then snail mail, and finally got on the phone with them. They offered her $2.2 million, Augustus, and plus inventory, about $400,000 in inventory. And they said, this is what we do. And they were very convincing. This is what we do. Your business has a hero SKU, meaning more than 50% comes from one SKU, which is true. Your business has a COVID bump, and we don't know if that's going to continue. Absolutely true. Therefore, your business is only worth $2.2 million. Still a strong multiple. I don't remember what the multiple was at the time. Might have been 2.75 or something like that, maybe 3 times. And trust us, this is what we do. It's the absolute best you're going to get for your business. Fortunately for her, she said, no, thank you. And she reached out to Chuck Mullins here on the Quiet Light team. He ended up getting 7 offers for the business and sold her for $5.5 million. So these guys are really charming and likable, and she almost said yes, but she decided to get a professional opinion. You don't have to get a professional opinion necessarily. If you want to do it on your own, do it on your own, but make sure you do a proper add back schedule and make sure that you're not negotiating with one aggregator. We got 5.5 million because there were 6 other aggregators and a couple of the non-aggregators that were fighting over it to make offers and driving the price up. So that's kind of the key in terms of running the plays, and in particular, Chapter 13 and the FBA aggregators. The big one is really, teaming up for the sale, either with your CPA, your attorney, or an advisor, or all four. And in that section, part 4, I really break down the different types of deal structures that you're going to end up getting presented with. Aggregators offer all cash close in 30 days, but what they don't tell you is that they will hold back, 10% as a stability payment. It will remain in escrow for a year. As long as your business is doing within 90% of revenue at closing, they'll release that money. So if it's $1 million deal, there goes $100,000, and you sleep wondering if you're going to get that. They'll also tell you that they need a working capital peg of at least 2 months worth of inventory. And so you spend $50,000 a month on inventory. There's another $100,000 that you never get. You just have to gift them that inventory. It doesn't always happen that way, but it often happens that way. So I talk about all the different types of deal structures. And again, it's not just with aggregators, it's with all sorts of deals and offers that you're going to get, from cash plus a seller note, equity, equity rolls, earnouts, and everything in between. And then we talk about working with attorneys, working with advisors, how to navigate due diligence. Essentially everything I've done in the last decade, over the 100 million in personal transactions that I've closed, and another $500 million through the team at Quiet Light. I did sort of a mental dump, and the feedback I've gotten is that people feel like they're sitting at a pub having a beer with me. So I think it's readable, even though the subject could possibly be dry. But the exciting thing once you get into it is that people really understand the value of what they have, and they get more excited about building it and setting goals and reverse engineer path to them, instead of just grinding it out every day, waiting for a call from an aggregator.
Yeah, so you mentioned reverse engineer just now for the second time, I think, or the third time. And this is actually the quote or sentence which also stand out for me when I was reading your book. I even wrote it. It's on 62nd page. You have a goal setting sentence which you have to fill out, and then reverse engineer. And it reminded me 2 months ago, I was in a web summit. It's a huge conference in Lisbon in Portugal. And there was a vice president of Amazon speaking. And he was explaining how Amazon is pushing press releases with imaginable things which they want to do, and they say you will have a drone delivery within 30 minutes of your products. But when they publish this press release, he explained they have no idea how to do it. They don't know about regulations, nothing, but they just push it. So, and then they reverse engineer. And this is what you're talking also, that you have to reverse engineer your goals.
It's exactly that. And the goal setting, there's 3 points to that, which is really important when people are writing goals. 2 of them are pretty obvious. People write these down when they set goals. The third is something that we added from my business coach that I work with. So it's, the sentence goes something like, I will sell my business for $3 million in Q1 of 2023. That's a simple goal. But the third part is, and when I do, I will feel unburdened because I'll be out of debt, have money set aside to pay for my kids' college, and get to spend more time with my family. It's those feelings that help people get over the bad days, weeks, and months and years that sometimes we all have as entrepreneurs. When you've got a written goal, you add that feeling to it in terms of what it is you're going to do, how you're going to feel when you attain that goal. And that will actually help you succeed and drive towards that goal more successfully as well. So you got to reverse engineer to that though, right? So you can't just say, I'm going to travel to, Madrid, right? I'm trying to do some Eastern, some European travel for you, but you can't just put into Google Maps that you're going to travel to Madrid via car, which you wouldn't do. You take a train, but without understanding where you are today. So in the States, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. If I wanted to go to Boise, Idaho, I guess I could just jump on I-40 and start driving west. But it'd be a heck of a lot better if I put my destination in Google Maps and then put my current place in Google Maps. And that's where you got to get, is to your current place in your business. What is it worth today? So if you want to sell it for $3 million, what is it worth today? How close or how far are you from those goals? And that way you can sort of project out how long it's going to take you to actually achieve them once you have a true understanding of the value of the business today and different levers that you can push and pull and a better understanding. Most people think that sellers come to us and they think their business is worth more than it ever is, than it really is. The reality is that when they come to us, more often than not, they don't have a full understanding of what it's worth, and it's worth more than what they thought, more often than not. And I'm talking dollars though, Augustus. I'm not talking multiples. People get this, well, I got a multiple of 4, I got a multiple of 3 in their head. And they don't know a multiple of what, and they don't know if, they can't say whether or not inventory was included in that multiple. You got to really get educated on this or get trained on it. That's what the book is for, because this is important. It's your business. It's your most valuable asset. And if you don't understand its current value, how they're transacted, is inventory included or excluded? When somebody says, I got a 4-time multiple, don't get excited, because it's not a multiple of net. It's not a multiple of revenue. It's a multiple of discretionary earnings. But then ask them, okay, did that include inventory? And they're going to go blank. They probably won't be able to tell you if it included inventory or not. So you got to really drill down and dig into those different things. And I cover all of it in the book, but you can have it in conversations and start with people by asking a multiple of what.
Yeah. Actually, it was another point which I marked in my notes, that you say what multiple it sells does not matter until key details are sorted out. So, and I remember you were giving, it's very nice example about the inventory is included or not, and the multiple can be either 3.2 or 4, but it's the same value of the business. So it's
the
like
same value at the end of the day. That's right. So in almost all cases, FBA businesses are sold as a multiple of discretionary earnings plus the cost of inventory, the landed cost of goods sellable inventory. So when you see a list price of $3 million and $1 million in discretionary earnings, that's a 3-time multiple, but you've got $500,000 in inventory that is sold separately, still being sold for the actual value. It's 3.5 million or a 3.5 multiple. In most cases, inventory will add about a 0.5 point bump to it. So if it's a 4-time multiple and they included inventory, probably they got a 3.5. Where if it's 3.5 and they include inventory, it's probably a 3. That makes sense?
Yes. Actually, could you talk about SDE, the, again, seller discretion earnings? Like, can you explain what is the relation to the total revenue? And
Yeah, this is the most important term that FBA business owners and other online business owners need to understand. Because your business is not sold as a multiple of revenue. It's not sold as a multiple of net income. It's not sold as a multiple of EBITDA. It's really adjusted EBITDA in some terms, right? When you get into the middle market, it's businesses are sold as adjusted EBITDA. In the small to medium market, lower market, where we are, sub 25 million, it's sold as a multiple of sellers' discretionary earnings. So you're going to take net income plus add backs equals sellers' discretionary earnings. So you run a profit and loss statement at QuickBooks or Xero in accrual accounting, you export to Excel. On the bottom of that monthly view of your P&L for the last 12 months is net income. Then you're going to go up into the expenses section, and you're going to take your payroll. Let's just say that your net income is $100,000 on this P&L for the last 12 months, but you paid yourself $50,000. You're going to take that $50,000 and copy it and put it down below the net income line in what I'd call an add back schedule. So you're adding $50,000 back to the 100. So now you're at $150,000 in discretionary earnings. Let's say that you also get $1,000 a month in cash back money. Now you're at $162,000 because that's $12,000 in cash back money. And by the way, you can convert reward points that you accumulate into the cash value on this spreadsheet. You don't have to cash them in, but you can do the math for the cash value depending upon the credit card that you have. So the add backs are where people that are not trained give buyers of these businesses a great deal of instant equity because they don't do a proper add back schedule. I was at a ecom boot camp a few weeks ago in Palm Springs for 8-figure sellers, and I'm sitting around a fire pit having a beer, talking to a guy that does $50 million a year in revenue. He has an offer for his business at about 10 times. And he's just picking my brain. And I said, well, tell me about what you did for ad backs. And he's like, what's an ad back? And I thought, oh boy, okay. He's giving away an awful lot of revenue. I said, let's talk about a simple one. Do you get cash back money? He said, yeah, actually I do credit card stacking. I get $50,000 a month in cash back. I said, so what do you do with that? Well, it's over in my personal account. I don't put it on the P&L. By the way, that's perfectly normal. It's a discount off of advertising. It's okay. IRS hasn't figured out how to tax it. So it's fine. So $600,000 a year in cashback money. He got an offer for 10 times. So he missed a $600,000 ad back, and he missed out on $6 million. Okay, well, he didn't miss it because he learned from it. He bought me another beer, by the way, and he's renegotiating the offer that was given to him. You can add or subtract as many zeros to that if you want, depending on the size of your business. But we cover a total of 18 different ad backs in chapter 12 of the book. Actually, I think it's chapter 11 of the book. We cover 18 different ad backs, 3 different levels to them. But again, back to your question about SDE, it's net income plus ad backs equals seller's discretionary earnings. And it's that seller's discretionary earnings is what the multiple is applied to.
Yes, very interesting. Yeah, ad back is another word I saw so many times in your book. Could you explain us the difference between accrual and cash base calculations and accounting?
So cash-based accounting is you put in the expense when you buy the widgets, right? You buy 1,000 widgets for $1 a piece, spend $1,000 in the month of March, you have an expense of $1,000. Accrual accounting is you put in the expense of the widgets when you sell them. So let's say you sell 333 of them every month. In the month of March, you only have an expense of $333 now instead of $1,000. So your net income is $666 higher. That's the proper way to do it. Okay. If you pay for a SaaS service and you pay annually to get a discount, and you pay every March, and you pay, call it $3,000 a year in the month of March, but you're selling your business in the month of April, you've just given your seller a discount off of the business because you've got an expense of $3,000 there when really it should have been, more like $2,700, or I'm sorry, $300, right? You amortize those things over the months that the expense is going to occur in. The proper way to do it is all accrual accounting. The easy way to do it, an improper and very costly way to do it, is cash accounting. Now, if your business is growing rapidly and you sell your business on cash basis, you're going to lose your shirt. If your business is declining rapidly and you go to sell your business and you're doing cash accounting, you're selling your business for more than it's actually worth, and it's going to come back to bite you. Or the deal's simply going to fall apart in due diligence. Nobody in their right mind with any type of experience will buy a business if it's based on cash, with the exception of a content business, which is, it's pretty clean, pretty easy, except that sometimes you don't get paid for 60 to 90 days, and that can hurt if you're growing rapidly as well. So you can make adjustments there. We can convert it to accrual, Augustus. We'd rather not. The ideal situation is that everybody listening that runs an FBA business, if they don't have an e-commerce bookkeeper, that they get an e-commerce bookkeeper. It's what they do. They're experts. For a few $100 a month, you get clean P&Ls, clean reports. And when you are ready to sell your business, it's much easier and much more profitable than if you're just plugging in numbers and think it's good enough. This is one of the 4 pillars that you mentioned, right? It's risk, growth, transferability, and documentation. If you want to instill confidence in your buyer and have them pay maximum value for your business, you've got to have your numbers right. And that starts with accrual accounting.
To make clear that accrual accounting is not what you need to deliver to the IRS and tax authorities. It's not, you have to deliver cash-based accounting, but accrual is for buyers of your business, right?
Accrual-based accounting is the way that you should be running your P&Ls. And then when your CPA is going to do your tax returns, they'll run it on a cash basis. Your CPAs are for tax mitigation purposes and filing tax returns only. Bookkeepers are going to make it easier for your CPA to do their job right. I've never seen a CPA do bookkeeping the way that it should be done for online business owners. So I always recommend separating the two out. Hire an e-commerce bookkeeper to do your profit and loss statements, your balance sheets, and all that good stuff the proper way in accrual accounting. And then hire your CPA to do your tax returns and give you tax mitigation advice. They'll take the P&Ls that your bookkeeper did, and they'll just check off the cash box and they'll run a report, and it'll be much easier to file your tax returns. But there's two separate responsibilities there, and you should not have one group doing both, in my experience.
Another point which I noticed in your book, that you say that entrepreneur shouldn't wear a bookkeeper's hat, and that you have to separate CPA and bookkeeper.
No, you're a visionary as an entrepreneur. You're building a business that's, creating jobs and creating revenue, and you've got to keep driving forward. You can't really. Usually, our skill set is not the details of proper bookkeeping. That's why we recommend outsourcing it. I know that I'm weak in that area because I outsource my bookkeeping for two of my companies. For Quiet Light, we've got a fractional CFO, and for the EXITpreneur's Playbook, I've got an e-commerce bookkeeper that does that for me.
And you mentioned several times in your book some good resources where to find a good bookkeeper or CPA. Could you mention it here?
Yeah, EXITpreneur.io, and then on the partners link, there'll be a drop-down menu there to have good e-commerce bookkeepers, working capital for inventory sources. There'll be some good contract attorneys there as well, some SBA lenders, things of that nature.
Perfect. So another question is, when, of course, in your book, you are kind of promoting that you should go with a professional, let's say with a broker. It's maybe a little bit, you are promoting professionals like yourself. What if the business owner says to you, like, okay, I got now evaluation by the buyer. He tells me the price. But if I go to bookkeeper, I have to pay, probably you're charging like 15% commission. Isn't it that I'm losing money in the 15%?
Okay. You meant to say go to a broker or advisor. Yeah. No, Quiet Light does not charge 15%. I think you're thinking about Empire Flippers and maybe FE International. They charge 15%. We don't do that. We're all entrepreneurs first and foremost. We've all built, bought, and sold our own online businesses, and 15% is highway robbery, in our opinion. Simply put, it's just wrong. So we're at 10% on the first million, 9% on the second, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. No, we stop at 3. The one thing I can guarantee that's going to happen when someone goes to sell their business on their own or through an advisor is that near the very end is they're going to get very emotional. And if the deal goes off the rails, that emotion may lead to a discount on the price or a change of the deal structure. The difference between a good advisor, broker, and a great one is that the great ones are always going to get back on track, moving towards closing with no changes. Not understanding how to do a proper add back schedule, it starts with that. I go over it in the book. I give it all away. If they can do it on their own, have at it, right? Everybody's getting calls and emails and snail mails from these aggregators, and some people are going to simply make the choice to work with them directly. And so everything that we do at Quiet Light, for the most part, is in the book, and they can choose to do their own add back schedule based on the information I've given them, and then work and sell their business directly to an aggregator. But you've got to think back to that story I told about the young lady that sold that gaming business, who, was almost convinced by the aggregator that her business was worth 2.2 million plus inventory. And we sold it for 5.5 million plus inventory because we had multiple offers. We've had an average of 4.5 offers on every single listing year to date. And 60%, 62% have gone at or over asking price because we're getting multiple offers on them. People can do what they want, Augustus. I'm not trying to convince anyone to use Quiet Light. I thought I was pretty subtle in the book, to be honest with you. Apparently I wasn't to you. But, I give it all away. People can make their own choices. There will be some that will understand the value of an advisor, and there will be some that are willing to go it alone. And at least the details in the book will give them some resources to make sure that they're not giving away a fortune when they go it alone. And that's kind of the key. The aggregators, they would like, they buy from us, right? When Thrasio got their first value, 780 million valuation, right? Or round of funding, they bought about 20% of the transactions that they purchased were from Quiet Light. And it's because we put together a very nice package for them. We do a lot of work for buyers, right? By putting together a nice package for them. That's one thing I would suggest. If anyone out there is listening and thinking, I'm just going to buy the book, I'm going to read chapter 13, I'm going to read chapter 11, I'm going to go it alone. Well, read chapter 15 too, but on the deal structures. Inquire on a Quiet Light listing. Go to quietlight.com and inquire on a listing. Don't just look at the teaser. Click on it, fill out the form, sign the non-disclosure agreement, and see how we put packages together. It's very detailed. And if you're going to sell on your own, duplicate it. Do what we do. Don't be lazy, if you will, right? This is your most valuable asset. Put the time, effort, and work into it and make sure that you're not giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars. What we do is not rocket science. It's just hard work, okay? So if you want to do the hard work, it's all there for you. Just inquire on a listing and look at the details and, copy our client interview, duplicate it, ask every question that you think a buyer is going to want to know the answer to and put it down in writing. Format your P&L so it's nice and clean with a monthly view, year over year, month over month. Do the financial metrics. Make sure that, you're being truthful and honest and building a business that's a great business for a great buyer to take over at a great price, and you will get maximum value for it. Okay. Some people are going to go it alone, and it's all there if you want to do it on your own. If you decide, like I did this morning when I thought, I'm going to just do my whole entire email campaign for the EXITpreneur's Playbook. I got this, no problem. And then I start digging into it. I'm like, man, I'm not doing this. I'm just going to screw it up. And so I'm hiring somebody to do it, right? People can make their own choice. So I'm not talking anybody into anything. They can make their choice. And hopefully I've given them enough tools to be a blue or brown belt if they're going to go out on their own.
In other words, the 10% you're paying or 15% you're paying to a broker or advisor, it's worth because you will get much more than that, most likely, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not more than 10% with Quiet Light. If you're paying more than 10%, you're paying too much, in my opinion.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the 4 pillars of the value of the business. So risk, growth, transferability, and documentation. Maybe we can very briefly, time is running. If you could really briefly explain what do you mean?
Yeah. First of, why do I have those in there? It's because you got to think about what buyers want. What are buyers looking for? When they're trying to analyze the value of a business and determine their return on investment, they're going to look at risk, growth, transferability, documentation. They don't have that checklist unless they have my book, but it's what they've looked at over and over and over again. Those questions have come up for over the last decade. So risk is how old is the business? Generally, buyers get comfortable around 24 months. Below 24 months, they discount the multiple because the risk is higher. It's also size, right? A lot of people will come to me and say, I want to buy a business. I want to minimize my risk, so I only want to spend a couple of $100,000. And they're doing just the opposite of what they're trying to do by buying a smaller business. Younger, smaller businesses are actually more risky than larger, more established business. So if you got a business doing $1 million in discretionary earnings, you've got multiple SKUs. You might have repeat customers or recurring customers. You're well established, lots of reviews, lots of growth opportunities still ahead of you. It's worth more because it's less risk. The smaller businesses that are younger are higher risk, and that means a smaller multiple or a lower multiple. But there's also hero SKU risk. So single channel risk could be single channel Amazon. That's a bit of a risk, especially if you've got only Amazon revenue and one SKU. That's a huge risk. Still sellable, but not at the same value as an equal revenue and earnings business that has revenue from Amazon and Shopify and from 11 different SKUs. When we move into growth, buyers are absolutely favoring businesses that are growing. If you're growing 25% year over year, a buyer will earn their money back. If they pay a 4-time multiple for your business, they'll earn their money back in 2.7 years if it continues at 25% year over year. It basically, they calculate the return on investment and it shortens the life cycle of it. If revenue is flat or trending down, they're going to look for a discount on that multiple. So if you're growing 25% year over year and your multiple is pegged at 4 times discretionary earnings, and you compare a similar business, but it's declining year over year, that multiple is probably going to drop pretty rapidly, 1 to 1.5 points in some cases. So you might be at 2.5 versus 4. And the key point here is that you get training and you plan to sell your business. You don't wake up and decide to sell your business because you're worn out, tired, and emotionally done because the business has gotten harder and you've got more competition and the numbers are trending down. When you do that, your multiple is going to be much lower too. So set those goals and reverse engineer a path to them and make your exit as maximum value as possible. Transferability, it should go without saying, Augustus, that if the assets of the business don't transfer in the sale, you don't have a sellable business. By that, I mean the assets that generate revenue. I talk about an example in the book, a gentleman named Mike Jackness that I work with. I talk about Mike. I use his last name because he was on my podcast. I was on his. We talked about the exit of a business called Color It. Well, Mike's original plan was to sell 4 brands. 2 of them he launched, within 12 months of wanting to exit. They were not profitable yet, so we took those off the board. They were losing money, so it would have brought down his overall valuation. The third, he had one SKU that was representing about 50% of his revenue, and he was a reseller on it. He had exclusive rights to sell it on Amazon, but those rights were not transferable. And the owner of that SKU said, Mike, I love you, man. I don't want to give this up to anybody else. So if you decide you don't want to sell this on Amazon anymore, I'm going to do it myself. Unsellable business. Since then, Mike's worked that out. We took that one off the table as well. And Mike's worked it out so that he can transfer that business someday. And there's a deal worked out between the 2 of them. The third one was sellable because everything was transferable. The positive numbers and everything was transferable. The challenge on some businesses where the owner is the name and face of the business is that they want to sell, but they're the ones that are driving traffic because they're doing, lots of podcasting or AMAs and mastermind events and things of that nature. And they're the name and face of the business. And if they go away, the audience, the buyers of their product or service may go away as well. So they may not get a full exit right away. They may get out of the daily grind, but still have to be the name and face. They just won't have to operate the business anymore. And it'd be a longer transition period. But that's the biggest transferability issue there. The last, Augustus, we talked about documentation, clean financials, clear financials, not necessarily clean. We could do an ad back schedule for all the stuff you write off that you're not supposed to. And then, SOPs are great. Standard operating procedures on everything that you do every day and everything that your team does every day. That's going to instill confidence in your buyers, and that's going to get you more value. If I trust you more, I'm going to pay you more. Simple as that. If I don't trust you, but I kind of like the business, I'm going to negotiate down a little bit, or maybe even ask for an earnout because you're not a trustworthy character. And that's the 5th pillar. You are the 5th pillar. If you're just goofing off and doing horrible things on Twitter and TikTok and Facebook, it's going to be found. I had an interview today for an executive assistant, right? I interviewed 4 people, ended up only liking one of them. And I thought, I'm going to hire this kid. His name is Alex. And I'm like, I'm good. This is good. And then, I popped his name into Google. Lo and behold, he's got a YouTube channel and he's doing all sorts of goofy, really weird things on his YouTube channel. Most of it's for, fun, but a couple of it was a little weird. And it almost made me say, no, I don't want to hire this guy. If I was buying a business from him, I would have said, no, absolutely not. But the YouTube channel, little videos there, I can get away with. But a lot of people do really stupid things on social media and post really harsh opinions, especially, with political stuff here in the U.S., with vaccines all around the world, and it's very divisive. And if your buyer's on the other side of that, you just shrunk your buyer pool. So be a good person first and foremost. Build a great business for a great buyer to take over at a great price. And behave online. Just take down the harsh political stances. Nobody cares about your political views. They care about your business. But if you're really harsh, you're going to be, and they're just on the opposite side of it. And I've been in this situation, and I'm not going to tell you which side I'm on, but it's you just don't want to deal with them, and you erode trust. And trust is the most important factor when you're selling your business. You could do a whole lot of stuff wrong, but if you're likable and trustworthy, buyers may still step up to the plate, buy your business. May not be the maximum value or perfect deal structure, but if they don't like you, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, talking about trust, I remember you had another example in your book where you projected that the guy will sell for 3 millions or something like that, but he went alone and he sold his business for 5 millions because he I don't remember the numbers, but
You're talking about John. You're talking about John.
Yeah.
John was he was 72 years old, and he had a 17-year-old content site. And this was like 2015. Imagine that. 17 years old in 2015. He and his wife traveled the world posting about their travels and had quizzes online and earned affiliate money and revenue. He made about $400,000 in discretionary earnings. And normally at that time, multiples were generally low. It was hard to get anything over 3 times to sell back in 2016 or 17 or 15, actually. And so we'd actually list the business for 2.74 because it would round down to 2.7 online. And John, his books were clean. Everything about the business was great, or good, I should say. But John was great. He was really likable. I wanted to get in a car and drive to Florida and have dinner with him. He was that likable. And that was a 10-hour drive from where I am. And I said, John, look, the value is going to be somewhere around 2.7, 2.8 tops, because that's what the market is telling us. That's what buyers have been paying for content sites. That's what the value is. And that's where we should go out. And he said, John, no, look, just you do your job and get me on the phone with them. We'll get enough interest where they want to talk to me. I'll take it from there. And he was absolutely right. He was that fifth pillar that took the value of the business from, a little less than, 1.1 million to 1.6 million. He wanted me to list it at 4 times. I was younger and less experienced than I am today. And I said yes. And thankfully, I said yes, because we got a 4-time multiple. He had multiple offers and sold it for $1.6 million in all cash because of him. The business was just good, but he was great. Multiple buyers made offers and they really want to do business with John. He's a good guy. It makes a big difference.
Amazing. All right. So I think everyone who wants to learn more or to get secrets how Joe Valley and Quiet Light Brokerage work, you can read this book. You will find this book on Amazon. We will have some links below. Also, Joe is giving away 2 sections
Free chapters.
for free.
Yeah, if you go to EXITpreneur.io, I think I'm actually up to 3 chapters now that you can get for free. They're some of the most important chapters. And look, the book is for you. It's not about Quiet Light. Just take Quiet Light out of your mind. I do think that if you want to firm up the value of your business, Quiet Light does that. Other firms do it as well. And that will help you understand how close or how far you are. But think about the book for your own resources. It's $15. Right? Spend the money. It'd be the best money you've ever spent. I'm not getting rich off of books, Augustus. It's not, so you're not doing me a huge favor, folks. It's just a great book that will help you understand the value of what you have. And I hope you buy it because I wrote it for you, and I want it to help the most people that it can. And the only way that's going to work is A, if you buy it, and B, if you actually read it. Start with chapter 11, go to 13, and then go back to the beginning. And I think you'll be motivated to read the rest of it.
Yeah, and I think during this interview we covered a lot of really important things, which you, as I said, you repeat all the time, like SDE, I forget the seller discretion earnings and accrual accounting and add backs and pillars and like, yeah, it's really interesting. I really recommend this book. And also, Joe, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Maybe they want to sell business through you, through Quiet Light, or they have questions you discussed in the book.
Yeah, so they can go to EXITpreneur.io for some of the resources that we talked about and the e-commerce bookkeepers, attorneys, and things of that nature. Or they can go to quietlight.com and do the valuation form there, or at EXITpreneur.io. They can connect with me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at joe@exitpreneur.io or joe@quietlight.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and good luck in your business. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Thanks for having me.
I hope you got inspired to purchase Joe's book and read more and get his knowledge and to know how to evaluate and how to prepare your business for the more successful exit. All the links you'll find below. Also, other resources we mentioned during this talk and the link to Joe's websites. And now I would like to invite you to watch a video which will help you to improve your A+ content on your Amazon product listing, because here Chris Rawlings, our guest, is sharing an excellent formula for that.